One of the biggest mysteries in Stranger Things 4 is, who is the American? Several names have come up, and we'll be exploring the possibilities. Subscribe to Riveted and turn on the notification for this and more amazing videos. The scene with the American shows two uniformed Soviet guards intent on retrieving a prisoner from the cells. As they arrive at the first door, the trailing guard wags his finger and says, "No, not the American." The guards proceed to open the next door, dragging out a shaggy-haired Russian prisoner to be the Demogorgon's shrieking dinner. If there's one thing we've learned from Stranger Things, is that anything is possible and the showrunners always find a way to give the show a twist. Well, for a lot of reasons, the American could be Hopper, and many people desperately wanted to be Hopper. He met his end after a brutal fight with the Russian soldier Grigory. Joyce Byers had to make the heartbreaking decision to close the gate to the Upside Down, causing Hopper to die in the crossfire. Obviously, nobody believes that Jim Hopper's dead, and if he ends up dead, that will be a twist no one's expecting. The rule of TV is that if we don't see the dead body or burial, the person in question is most likely still alive. Here are some of the reasons why fans believe that the American is Jim Hopper. The Russians hinted it. The Russians refer to Hopper as the American throughout much of Season 3, so he could be the same person they're referring to in the credits. There's an interesting theory floating in the internet. Once in the Upside Down, Hopper wanders around and is eventually taken over by the Mind Flayer. Some time passes, and the Russians finally get their gate opened on their side. The Mind Flayer, who being an ancient being with power over most of the Upside Down, probably has more abilities than we know, brings whatever remnants of its army on the Upside Down, including Hopper, to Russia and sends them through the gate. Reunion with Elle. 11 lost her father and her powers in one day, and the scene where she reads his letter is a tearjerker. In the letter, there is a promise for a return because Hopper tells Elle to leave the door slightly open. Nothing would bring 11 and her fans more joy than to see her reunite with her dad. It was sad to watch her being introduced to parenting, only for it to be taken away. 11's mother was left in a vegetative state after undergoing electric shock therapy at the hands of Dr. Brenner, and Brenner himself kept Elle in captivity for years. It would be uplifting for the character to have a second chance with Hopper. If Hopper were to return then, he could help his adopted daughter reclaim her gifts in time for another showdown with the Soviets or Hawkins' lab. We need more of Hopper and Joyce. Joyce and Hopper finally agreed to give things between them a chance before Hopper's death, and there is always hope that they will eventually get that chance. After helping Elle, Hopper definitely deserves a chance to be happy with Joyce. Initially, he was not the perfect boyfriend, but he has the chance to redeem himself if he is the American. It would also be interesting to watch 11 and her friends fight to save Jim Hopper. The other side of the portal. Some have even theorized that the other side of the portal was actually the Russian lab that the American is being held up in, and seeing as they weren't expecting him to come through it, locked him away until they came up with a plan. This would also explain how he got to Russia. Nobody knows exactly how the Upside Down works, but we know for a fact that it's not normal down there. It's not the end of Hopper's storyline. Matt Duffer confirmed that Hopper's storyline was based on Han Solo's in Star Wars. In Empire Strikes Back, Hans was left in suspended animation, and he could have died, but he didn't. The same should also apply to Jim Hopper. Plus, there's also the love angle, which he has to explore, just like Hans. We may not be sure whether he's the American, but we know for sure that he will definitely be coming back. Hopper's car was spotted by eagle-eyed fans on the set of Stranger Things, meaning he's either part of the cast or he just likes paying the cast members courtesy visits on the set. It's highly likely that he's still part of the cast, even if it would only be in a flashback. When people were coming up with suggestions about the American, Billy's name rarely came up, but now there are reasons to believe that he could actually be the American. Billy's gruesome death at the hands of the Mind Flayer was shown on screen in the Battle of Starcourt Mall. Most fans had already accepted that Billy was done with the series, and they were finally okay with it. However, we believe that he is still alive and a favorable candidate to be the American. Here are the reasons why the American could be Billy. Number 1, we didn't see his dead body. Just like Hopper, no one saw Billy actually die. The attack may have been gruesome, but viewers never saw his dead body lying on the ground. Again, the rule is no body, no death. If he was truly dead, the cast members, especially his family members, would have paid their respects, but that didn't happen. Number 2, Billy adds shock value. Most people believe that Jim Hopper is the American, but having Billy as the American would be more interesting. Stranger Things is already known for its twists, and this could create further opportunities in the show's narrative. It's possible that Billy was dragged into the Upside Down after being caught after the portal became unstable and sent shockwaves through the Starcourt Mall. Redemption for Billy, number 3. Billy's backstory was sad, but he had a moment of redemption in the Season 3 finale, breaking free of the Mind Flayer's control and sacrificing his life to protect Elle. If he is the American, he will have more time to prove that everyone can be redeemed and live as a good person. The teenage group in Hawkins is also the weakest currently, though this was improved with Robin's introduction. It would create more possibilities in the storyline if Billy was added to the group. Billy would be a perfect candidate to join the party alongside his stepsister Max. 4. Consequences for Neil. Billy was introduced as a bullying teenager, and he was subjected to violent abuse at the hands of his father, Neil. There's no way Neil will get away with turning his son into a bully. If Billy returns, he will face his father, who will face the repercussions of his actions. He saw his clone, number 5. When Billy went to the Upside Down, he saw a clone of himself. The assumption is that the clone somehow switched places, and Billy escaped by creating a new gate somehow. This would be a great angle because it would also explain how that Demogorgon was alive in the Russian lab. If not, as the American, Billy could still be alive in another form. He probably became an extension of the Mind Flayer, which could mean he too is still alive, even if it's just on a subconscious level. That could also be good news for everyone else who played host to the creature throughout the seasons. Well, Will managed to survive the Mind Flayer, so it's possible that Billy also survived. We know that most people are rooting for Hopper, but Billy's return doesn't necessarily mean that Hopper will be written off. He could still be the American, and Hopper could be trapped in the Upside Down. That way, everyone will be part of the possible season finale. And the two are not the only candidates for the American. In fact, the possibilities are more than you can even imagine. Stick around for the most shocking candidate. The American could also be Dr. Brenner. He and Hopper were initially the most likely candidates. Brenner, who ran the Hawkins National Laboratory and raised Eleven under horrific conditions, hasn't appeared in Stranger Things since the second season. When Eleven visits her sister, they go to one of Brenner's employees' house. He said Dr. Brenner was still alive and he could take them to him. Executive producer Sean Levy also told Collider back in October of 2017, stressing that Brenner is alive, Brenner is out there. The Duffer Brothers also commented when asked about Brenner's fate in Season 2 and said, "I think the audience deserves an actual Brenner death if we're gonna kill him. So we want to keep this idea that he may still be out there. The only problem would be how Eleven would feel about the one person who tortured her. Will she put their differences aside and save him? Or should he just be fed to the Demogorgon? How about the mayor?" The mayor of Hawkins has been in cahoots with the Russians for some time, allowing the Red Army to conduct operations in its secret base under Starcourt Mall. There is a possibility that he made a deal with the Soviet soldiers after everything went down. Klein ending up in a Soviet prison as a Demogorgon food would be a most fitting ending for him anyway. There's also a theory suggesting that the American could be Ted Wheeler. He was kidnapped for being a CIA agent. His character had minimal exposure in the past seasons, and that could change in the 4th season. The theory was made based on Wheeler's suspicious 6-figure income and calm demeanor around CIA agents he interacted with on previous episodes. The other candidate for the American is also Barb. She somehow disappeared, and no one knows what happened to Barb. Remember that her parents still consider her missing and not dead? There are so many unanswered questions about Barb, and having her back in the 4th season could answer most of those questions. Or it could be Murray Bauman. We told you that the possibilities are endless. Last time we saw Murray, he was with Joyce Byers shortly after she destroyed the device in the Russian lab under Starcourt Mall. No one saw him leaving the mall. Dr. Owens and the American troops swept through the facility. Murray was probably captured. He was safe as the action wrapped up, and he wasn't shown in the epilogue 3 months later. David Harbour revealed a phone number, 1-618-625-8313, at the end of Season 3 that, when called, plays a pre-recorded message from Murray. In it, he complains about his mom and tells Joyce that he has an update that's not good or bad, but it's something. Murray must be investigating the Russians in some capacity, a dangerous venture that could attract their attention. Perhaps shortly after recording this message for Joyce, he was captured by the Russians and imprisoned in Kamchatka. In Murray's Season 3 arc, he helped Hopper and Joyce Byers with their Russian prisoner Alexei, translating for them so they might unravel the mystery. He also helped them infiltrate the Russian base under Starcourt Mall to shut down the machine. Clearly, he's very valuable to the Russians, and it makes sense that they would spare him instead of feeding him to the monster. According to a fan of Reddit, if Russians had been monitoring him from his days at the Times, he would have led them to Hawkins, to the lab, and Brenner's research. The Russians could have been infiltrated the lab during Season 2, setting up those cameras we see in Season 3. This could also tie into a theory on Season 4, where the American in the cell could be Murray, picked up by the Russians when he went back to his home base to gather his things. The other candidate for the American is Kalie, Eleven's sister. The Russians couldn't open the gate without coming to Hawkins, so then how do they have a Demogorgon locked away in the Russian facility? We know Elle can unlock the gate to the Upside Down, so it's not crazy to assume Kalie can as well. Having Kalie as the person in captivity could also motivate more of her kind to save her. It could also be none of the above. Since everyone anticipates a familiar face, the American could be someone we have never seen, perhaps an unknown physicist from the lab. Think about it. The Americans were only able to open a gate because of Elle's powers. We're shown at the beginning of Season 3 that the Russians can't open a gate over there, so they went to Hawkins. So how do they have a living Demogorgon if the gate is closed here again? They opened their own gate, and the only way they can do it is with one of the psychics. We can't wait for the show to air and finally put all these rumors to rest. Who do you think is the American? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Remember, we publish amazing videos daily. Tune in tomorrow for another great clip. This has been Riveted.